It was a protest that changed China forever.
It scared the living daylights out of the party central command.
10 years after Tiananmen Square, it's the eve of the millennium, and 10,000 people silently gather in front of the homes of China's leaders. They come quietly, and they leave quietly, but their voices have been heard.
It put Falun Gong on the map as a force in China.
3 months later, the crackdown. Thousands are arrested, tortured, and killed. The beginning of a genocide that continues today.
The decision that they will ban Falun Gong, the decision was made on April 25th.
But what made those silent protesters spend that April day in peaceful appeal? What sparked the brutal persecution that followed? And why has the world stayed mostly silent about the nightmare that many Falun Gong practitioners have endured throughout the past decade?
The other man said, beating Falun Gong to death is nothing and is counted as suicide. I said, even if you beat me to death, I will not tell you anything.
This is their story. A story of courage amid condemnation. A story of old brutality beneath the veneer of a new China. The story of Falun Gong.
I got there around 8 a.m.
Shi Caidong now lives in New York and can be seen practicing Falun Gong on weekends at Manhattan's Madison Square Park. But on April 25, 1999, he was a Chinese citizen who had a chance to meet the country's second most powerful person.
There were already a lot of people, a lot of practitioners had already arrived. From their attire, it looked like they were from the rural areas around Beijing.
They had come for one reason: to appeal for Falun Gong at the National Appeals Office in Beijing. China's network of appeals offices predates both Communist Party rule and the Chinese courts. It was traditionally a last resort for Chinese citizens who experienced some form of injustice. Shi says he decided to appeal after hearing that practitioners had been arrested in the neighboring city of Tianjin.
After I found out, I thought that we needed to appeal to government departments about the situation.
In Tianjin, practitioners had been protesting negative press coverage in the local media. But after being broken up by riot police and appealing to the local government, they were told they had to take their appeal to the National Appeals Office in Beijing. But taking the appeal to Beijing raised the stakes. Across from the National Appeals Office is the central leadership compound of Zhongnanhai.
As to Zhongnanhai, while he was walking, he asked, "Haven't I already ruled on the materials you sent in for appeal?" We were really confused when we heard this, because we didn't know that the Premier had made any decisions regarding our practice.
It's fear. You can feel the stress, because a lot of armed police suddenly ran out of Zhongnanhai and stood in front of us, about 2 meters, in between the armed police. They just line up in front of us. They look very serious. And then I had a feeling that Jiang Zemin was going to.
I thought it was interesting and that their movements were very graceful, so I walked up to have a closer look. I saw a sign next to them explaining Falun Gong. After I read it, a person next to me began explaining what it was.
It was a time when such scenes were occurring all over China. The Cultural Revolution that began in the 60s had seen chaos, bloodshed, and the loss of countless cultural traditions. The openness and reform policies of the 80s opened China to foreign investment and trade.
During all of the political persecutions by the party, they would always start with the media and destroy their target step by step.
After that happened, a lot of people
the situation clearly and they could rectify it. But after one day of sleep, on the next day, he came out and said they actually hadn't done anything wrong.
After 11 days of stalemate, the Public Security Bureau dispatched riot police and broke up the protest by force. Many people were beaten, and about 45 were arrested. As a response,